Good morning, welcome to Morning Views. Kim speaking on Monday, the 5th of December. So, looking at the euro dollar today mainly, and well, we're pretty close back to the weekly pivot here. It's the new weekly pivot. But of course, the key headline today is that the previous Prime Minister Renzi, who has now resigned, didn't manage to gain full power that he wanted. So, hence, as I say, he's resigned, which leaves Italy in a bit of a mess politically again, which it seems to be in and out of quite a bit. Now, the markets were expecting much more of a dip. It is expected that there's potential for the right wing to start gaining more power, and even try and form a government, which, if it did, it could put an end to the euro in Italy at the least, and possibly there's discussions of a vote for Italy to leave the eurozone. Hence, the volatility and the movement in the euro this morning. However, even the head of the Five-Star Party has suggested they would try and remain in the euro, so not euro as in the currency, but in the eurozone. Well, we'll see. But for now, it's looking bitty. It's quite an amazing thing that it's recovered most of the sell-off since last night, and it could still push on and fill the gap completely. It's just showing how robust some of these markets are with these political events now. They're starting to get a bit more used to them, perhaps, but we'll see. It was still one hell of a sell-off last night. Well, the decisions are unknown, and it does leave some volatile or greater potential for volatility in the euro over the coming days and weeks. So current position, well, it's hanging in there, as I said. We're just below the weekly pivot. The gap would be somewhere near where the daily pivot is, and may be reasonable targets. However, if it starts rolling post 8 o'clock, well, we could just as easy run back towards the south side, but it's let's say being quite robust at the moment. There may be people starting to short into the 50-34 sort of zone. Just need to watch that with a weekly pivot if it gets up that way, and certainly the daily pivot. The very fact that we may have uncertainty does lend support to further weakness in the euro, which may give us opportunities to short at some point. Okay, looking at the cable, the pound dollar at the moment, to me, it's had a good push up on Thursday, Friday last week. It's a little bit indecisive so far this morning. Could still, of course, push on up. With the move last week, we saw on the 4 hours, it sort of gave us a marginal divergence here. Price slightly lower than the previous levels in terms of the RSI, or the RSI higher, but the price is higher, RSI slightly lower, giving us a slight divergence there. Weekly pivots below us. There is the possibility, and it's possibly my favourite, if it breaks more likely the 421, the alley 21, may give me a smallish short, because you can see the trend here is quite on this intermediate side. It's certainly for the upside, but it's not to say it won't correct back down to this weekly pivot. So the probabilities of these being hit quite early in the week, I'd prefer to be really seeing if I can trade at least a part of the position down to that level. Okay, dollar yen. Dollar yen's erring towards the upside here. It's already started a bit of progress on this. It's hit its weekly pivot and bouncing off that. It doesn't really want to look back to the monthly pivot at the moment, but there's the potential, obviously, if it starts rolling back again. So it has hit its weekly pivot. It looks like it has on the dailies there. It doesn't look like it's done it here on the 4 hourlies there. So it's come up slightly short actually on there. Oh, it caught it through that. Yeah, I can see what it's done. The daily counts in on Sunday on that bar there, and it's counted that as a hit. It hasn't actually hit it totally. If it breaks this 50 EMA, this hourly 50, maybe it could get a shove and push on upwards back towards the highs there. If it stalls here, well, maybe we get a proper test of the weekly pivot during this week as opposed to the Sunday move. Okay, dollar yen, Aussie dollar. So the Aussie dollar, he's put a bit of a pivot swing in on the dailies on Friday. It's bearish, almost bearish Harami push up, and it's pushing up towards the weekly pivot again. There is potential money could go from there. Apparently, the New Zealand Prime Minister resigned through the Asian session, and sometimes it puts money a bit more towards safety in that area, and it may run more towards the Aussie dollar. Certainly, probably help the Aussie dollar somewhat as a surprise. But it's come down back to the alley, and it's pretty consolidated where it is. This sort of leaves for me for a bit of a simple. Where if it breaks one way, I'd be to the upside here. Would probably be looking at the monthly target there, just above. If it breaks to the downside, sorry, the weekly target up there is above. And if it breaks this downside here, well, be looking at the S1, maybe more down to the downside. Okay, and finally the Canadian dollar. Sorry, let's just have a quick look at oil. What's happening there? Okay, it's holding itself up there. It's above the $50, so $50. So it's looking reasonably strong. We came within a smidgen again through the Asian session earlier, through Sunday session at this week's weekly pivot. It may on this particular occasion mean that it doesn't want to come back for it. We'll see. But just the same as the euro there, it's just sort of flicked beforehand. If it does start, I say euro, it's not euro at all, the pound. If it does start breaking down, breaking this 21, well, we could see it going for the daily, but it's an either or here. You've got the daily below, the weekly above. My preference on the the Canadian dollar at the moment is to the downside here, so a break of the 34. Could see it breaking to the south side, with the price of oil holding up or pushing and potentially continuing to push up if it continues its move today. However, if that starts coming off, it's quite an easy route up to the weekly pivot there. Right, news-wise today, just looking, there's not a massive amount of news, although we got services PMI for the UK this morning at 9:30. That often gives more of a move than the other PMI figures, as we rely heavily on the services industries for part of the GDP. So looking at 9:30, so services PMI, they can give at least a 20-30 pip move if it's slightly different. And then we got the US services, or non-manufacturing as they prefer to call it, at 3 o'clock, so this afternoon. Now there is a FOM speaker at 1:30, just checked, due to speak the economy and monetary policy in New York. Okay, so we could see a bit of volatility about 1:30 in the US. Right, that's it for me. Have a great day. Bye for now.